Welcome to Coaching with Chris. I am so excited you're here today. Listen, we have Major Singleton. I can't wait. This is like the first time I've ever really had a great conversation with Major. So I'm going to get to know him. You're going to get to know him. But listen, the greatest compliment you could ever do is share Coaching with Chris. Whether you want to listen to this as we're getting ready to start mowing lawns again, or you're out for a jog, or maybe in your car for a commute, please share Coaching with Chris and let us know. Let us know what your favorite episode is, and let us know what we're missing. If we need to interview a special guest, we love recommendations. So, Major, how are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks, and honored to be here with you, have a conversation with you. This is exciting. I was told this is when you know you've made it when you're on Coaching with Chris. So,
Oh,
uh,
yeah, right.
thanks,
You have
thanks for
made it,
inviting me
my
on.
friend. You have made it long before Coaching with Chris. Uh, Listen, I got to get to know you a little bit here. So, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your mortgage journey and how we got it up to this spot today.
Well, I started out. I was a commander in the Navy, and one day had a junior sailor that went rogue on me and invited a guy in to talk about VA home loans. And he came to my office, and I was second in command at the time, so I was actually the acting commanding officer. And so, when you're acting commanding officer, you have one job and one job only. Just don't mess anything up. So when he came to my office about 1:15 in the afternoon, he said, "Hey, sir, we got a guy coming by to talk to us about VA loans." And I said, "Well, we can't do that. We got to have this vetted through legal, and they have to go through all these checks and balances, and to have somebody come speak on base." And he
Mhm.
said, "Well, sir, he just gave me a call. He's 15 minutes out." And I was like, "Well, crap." So I went and had to sit in this presentation to listen about VA loans, to make sure that everything was kosher and nothing went off the rails. And I did. I sat there for about an hour and a half, listened to the guy speak. Did a great job. Didn't sell anybody anything. He was just about education. So I really enjoyed that. And I was walking out, and I said, "Hey, when I'm done here and it's time for me to retire, I probably should look you up, and we should have a conversation, whether we can, do something together." And he said, "Absolutely." As time went on, about 9 months later, I was doing a refinance, and simultaneously, the Navy had given me a call and said, "Hey, we're going to have you." I was on track to have my own destroyer, my own DDG, and be commanding officer. And they said, "Hey, before you do that, you got to go to DC for a year, unaccompanied, without your family." And I said, "Well, obviously, you didn't read my bio. I'm not a real DC type of guy, so that bureaucracy is not going to work out for me very well. So I'm not doing that." So they said, "Well, you got a choice. You can do it, or leave." So I said, "Well, guess it's time for me to leave." So I got in touch with that guy who had come speak to us. His name's Tony Diaz. I think he's with Cross Country or something like that
Okay.
right now. And we started working together. He connected me with his loan officers. I came on. My wife thought I was having a midlife crisis because I was leaving the Navy. Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't.
Yeah.
But she thought I was insane. But I think my second month in mortgages after I was licensed, I think I closed 16 units that second month, in Hawaii. And I said, "Hey, I could stay in the Navy if you want me to." And she said, "No, I think you're going to be okay." So and it's been off to the races. That was 4 years ago, and it's been quite a journey.
Now I know you work Hawaii, maybe Texas too, or probably work across the country, really. But
Mhm.
where's home base for you? Where's home?
Arlington, Texas, just like 5 minutes down the street from the Cowboys Stadium, or as I
Yeah.
like to refer to it, the cesspool that is the Cowboys Stadium. We make our home here in Arlington. We moved here about 3 years ago. We left Hawaii and relocated here.
Well, you started in the military background and then transferred into mortgage. I think the thing that I'm thinking about is that what do you think the military taught you that you transferred into your mortgage business? Because what's cool about your story is that, and maybe even hard for some to relate, is you had immediate success.
Hmm.
Like, right, you started closing loans right away, and quite a few loans.
Hmm.
Like, what was it, do you feel like, that was the transfer from military to mortgage?
I think the thing that helped me a lot was that even though I was an officer, I treated people like people. You know, it
Mm,
was, we have something to accomplish. We have something to do. Of course, they respected the rank and everything, but I think it was just the ability to connect with people from multiple different backgrounds,
mhm,
and have an understanding that nobody comes into the military for the same reason. Somebody's in the military because their grandfather and their father was in the military, and so they joined the military. Somebody else is joining because it was the only option they had.
mm,
Some people join because, hey, they get an ultimatum of, hey, it's prison or military life. And people come from various different backgrounds, and everybody has their individual goals. And you have to figure out how all of these people with their individual goals, you can channel them into accomplishing a military mission. So I think that's what helped me a lot, understanding people's backgrounds and understanding, kind of everybody has a different perspective about this. And just understanding when you transfer that into the mortgage industry, you got a buyer's agent, you got a listing agent, you got, a title company, you have all of these people, a buyer and a seller, all of these people that may have differing objectives. And really, as a mortgage professional, nobody gets paid until you do your job. So, really, you are the one who has to sometimes intervene and say, hey, okay, what do you need here? What's the concern here? And figure out how to get everybody on the same sheet of music, because sometimes we're bumping heads at each other when we aren't really communicating with one another about what we really want. So I think that's what's helped me transition from, a lot of my military service. And some of it honestly was leveraging those relationships. I built some great relationships in the military. And I saw it as, I spent 20, 23 years building these relationships. And when I came into mortgages, I was just kind of cashing in on those relationships that I had built, over the last 20 years or so. So I do think there are a lot of parallels.
hmm. I think I want to make sure I got this right, but I hear you tell me three things. You worked a niche that you had built over inside that military for over 20 years. Yes?
Mhm. Yes.
You got really good at being relatable, but then you're a great listener. And then you became this problem solver in mortgage, which then voila was the secret formula, or did I miss it?
No, that was really it. I had a pastor a while ago. He was one of my really, I grew up in the church and everything, but
Yeah.
he was one of my first pastors when I really decided to accept Christ for me.
Mm,
So he always said, he said, look, if you solve big problems, you will make big money. If you solve little problems, you will make little money. And so I just became good at solving problems for people. Even
mm,
now, I will have realtors call me and they'll say, hey, Major, I'm working this deal right now. Here is my challenge. And if I solve that problem for them and give them some ideas, true enough, I might not get that deal, but I'm going to get the follow on deals because I helped them solve a problem that they didn't know how to solve. So, yes, it is about being a problem solver. It's about being a communicator. I think that if you figure out how to do those things, you can be extremely successful, because everybody's looking for, how do I give value to this group of people and how do I get more business? But you should just focus on, how am I continuously to invest in people? And some of that is, how do I solve a problem for someone that they haven't yet identified?
hmm. Yeah, I love how you even said that, which was go first. Like you're just willing to help out, help solve, and then if you get, you get. If you don't, you don't. But in the end, you're just comfortable with it. I know eventually the opportunity is going to come. That's a cool mindset. By the way, I've never heard a pastor say solve big problems. I've never heard a pastor say that. Like, what a cool pastor. Is he still in your life?
At a distance, yes. He's not pastoring anymore. I don't know what exactly he does. I know he does a lot of speaking engagements and stuff like that,
Sure.
but he's not pastoring that church anymore. It's in Jacksonville, Florida. But he's not pastoring that church. That's probably like 15 years ago. When me and my wife first got married, that was the first church we actually attended together. And he was really a business mind. I mean, he really thought about a lot of things and he communicated a lot of things to us. And I was like, and he had a lot of like one-liners that I could take away, and I'm like, okay, I can put that in my back pocket. And sometimes those things just come back to me as I'm living life, of simple things that he was saying. And now I'm sharing those things with my kids and stuff like that.
By the way, we kind of skipped that step. Tell me about your family real quick.
Yeah, I've been married to my wife. This year we celebrate 20 years.
Awesome.
We have four children now, as of October.
Oh,
We have three natural children
okay.
that my oldest son's a Air Force pilot,
Mm.
and then my two youngest sons, they're 15 and 12. They live with us, and then in October we adopted our only girl. So,
Oh,
and then she's 15. So we have two 15-year-olds and a 12-year-old at home with us.
you are part detective, therapist, problem solver. Uh,
Well, a lot of that
you
goes to
got
my
a lot of
wife. She's
jobs.
yeah, my wife is the one who's always knocking on my door like, hey, we need to talk about this. So it's an interesting family. I'm very grateful. It's an interesting ride. Also to balance business and work. My wife does a lot with me in business. She's the one
Mhm.
who's usually scheduling classes and training events for brokerages and talking to title companies where I'm going in and teaching classes. She's doing that
Hmm.
scheduling the one-on-one follow-ups with realtors and stuff like that. So she handles a lot of the operation side. So it's really a family business.
It is. I love that. My wife's adopted, so adoption is a big part of her life and her journey. And her parents had 83 or four foster children.
Wow,
And she specialized in infants that were coming off of drug addiction
wow,
moms. So the
wow.
babies were a lot to handle. So that's pretty cool that you adopted and brought into your family. What a cool blessing.
Yeah, it was something me and my wife talked about. We were on our third date, and she's adopted also. So we were on our third date, and we knew it was inevitable, and we kept putting it off. And I think we got to a point where, when we moved to Dallas, and we built our home, she's like, "Look, are we going to do this or not?" And we never wanted it to be something that we said we wish we would have. So
Yeah.
we jumped all in. But it's been a blessing. Our daughter's a blessing to us. She's the only girl, so it comes with some drama. But it's I feel like she's kind of rounded out the family.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, real quick, we got a question from Troy. He said, what advice would you give to someone transitioning from a different career into mortgage industry? I'm newer to the industry and would love any tips that would help out. So he's probably coming from a different spot. Doesn't sound like the military. And I'm just curious on how you're going to answer that. I think I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. My question would be, you know, I would leverage. I mean, mortgage is so vast, and you can be so successful doing business multiple different ways with multiple different products. I would figure out a way to figure out how do I leverage the relationships from my previous industry and apply them to this industry. You might be coming from where you're doing sales of solar, or something like that, and you might be figuring out ways to do cash out refinances where people fund their solar or something like that. There are so many different ways. So the question is, what skills or what relationships did I establish in that previous career, whether you were teaching or something like that? Do you go back to that, back to those people and say, hey, you're a teacher. I can educate you. Our teachers can use this product to purchase homes. There's so many different parallels. You just have to draw the lines in the right way to connect really. Because right now, even now, I still service the veteran community. I service the veteran community outside of uniform. So I still have a lot of veteran military relationships that I lean on in order to build my business. So I didn't just jump from one thing to the other. I just figured out a way to serve that community in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, he says it comes from sales and tech. My advice is that start the drip. Like everybody from your prior company needs to know that you're learning to become the expert in mortgage. And so starting to drip them with information gets them to say, "Oh, okay, Troy, you've really mastered this. You're starting to master this piece. You don't need to be the major expert in the field, but they need to start to feel like Troy's starting to learn mortgage pretty well. I trust Troy. I know Troy. I'm going to use Troy. And I think we just think, oh, this prior industry is just going to follow me in. They didn't follow Major in. Major reached out to them, educated them, then they chose Major.
Hmm.
And it's a step many originators think, oh, they'll just naturally use me, like family and friends. If you teach family and friends that you kind of know what you're talking about, family and friends will know. But if they're like, I don't know if Chris knows what he's talking about, they ain't calling Chris.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. Another part of that is that when you're in tech or when you have a background in tech, the reason that we've been or successful, or what some people would define as successful, is because we know the language of the military. Okay, my entire team, the 5 ladies that support me, all are military spouses, so they know the language of the military. In tech, that's a different language. That's a different world. That's a lot of relocation, people moving from this company to this company. And if you can connect with relocation offices at these tech companies where they know that you know the language and know what the objective is of those people that are coming in and how they plan to build the business, that could be a great tool for you also, just figuring out the relocation side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's fun to be able to even to have that drip into them. And like, what did I learn from mortgage that I could take my prior field of tech
Mm,
and be able to educate those people, because then you're going to relate to them, and if you could relate, it's over.
absolutely.
Just like what we talked about, the three things that you did to transfer. Major, they said, please touch on team building. How many people do you have? And so let's go with one thing. Let's break this apart. They're gonna really drill you today, Major. I like this. There, who knows what's gonna come up next?
I like
But
it. I
like,
like it.
all right, so you're closing a lot of loans, but you got a team to do it. And
Yeah.
I always say, if you owned a sandwich shop, it would be weird if you were the owner, the cash register, the prepper, and you were trying to serve all the customers coming in. Plus, you clean the tables and took care of everything else. It would be impossible. You could hardly sell any sandwiches.
Yeah.
So if you want to sell a lot of mortgages, you got to have a good team. Tell
Correct.
us about let's go with your team first. Tell us about your team.
Okay, so first of all, and I'm going to call people by name just because they have names. So
Right.
first of all, there's Tracy. Tracy is my marketing person. She's in charge of my image. She's in charge of helping realtors put together graphics or something if they have a listing, or maybe do a temporary buy down flyers and stuff like that. She works a lot with our realtors and forming those relationships. She's also manages my social media, and making sure reels are going out and stuff like that. Now, my social media is structured a little bit differently. Coach Kyle Draper,
Mm.
handles my social media for me. His team does. Plug Coach Kyle there; he'll appreciate that.
You
Uh,
did give OKD a nice plug.
so he structured that. So I record anything you see on my social media is recorded on my iPhone, and they dress it up and make it look pretty, and then Tracy kind of figures out where it's going to plug in or how she wants to use it, on social media. So that's the outreach, image stuff that's going forward. Okay, and
Okay.
then I also have a structure where I don't, and people have criticized me for this. I control what I control. I do not count applications coming in. I don't count, how many pre-approvals I did. I count what I directly control. In my business is built on education. So
Okay.
I count the amount of classes that I do on a monthly basis. Okay. And if I do hit my wickets for classes that I do on a monthly basis, all the other stuff follows. So I just figure out what I can control. I can directly control going to a title company, going to a brokerage, and doing classes. So my wife, Cheryl, sets up that stuff. It works because she can partition off family stuff that she wants me to do. And so I don't cross over on that stuff. So that's the outreach stuff.
Okay, you got to pause there for a second
Okay.
because you're next level. All right. So let me tell you something that I think Major does this, because I don't want everybody to take that and go, I don't count apps, I don't count this. He already knows. He knows if he does these classes, it equals this amount, which equals this closings. He knows the formula. So if
Yes.
you don't know the formula, you
Don't do
can't
that.
do what Major
Yeah,
does,
that's true.
right?
That's true.
But he already knows the formula. So if once you got the formula, do what Major says.
Yeah.
If you don't know the major what your formula is, go back. You got to count apps for the week. Wouldn't you
That's
agree?
I agree with that. I do agree with that. Now,
Okay.
once apps come in, Christy and Brittany,
Okay.
they are pretty much my front end. They're knocking out pre-approvals. I
Okay.
think one thing that loan originators don't define is what is my my turnaround time? What is my cycle time? Because I was in the Navy,
Mm.
radar theory said you have to shoot it. You have to shoot a electronic beam, and then it bounces off a target and comes back. And that's how you know how far away that object is because of how long it took for that beam to come back to your receiver. A little bit of radar theory. However, in the mortgage business, the question you have to ask yourself is how long does it take me to get back in touch with the buyer once they submit an application? Okay.
Yeah.
My opinion is that should be 24 to 48 hours or whatever expectation you set for the buyer. Okay. So you have to communicate that up front to the buyer. The communication of that could be, a video that's embedded in some part of application process or something like that. But they have to have an expectation of when you're going to get back to them, because if you don't have an expectation, whatever time you take is too long. If they submit an application at 8 and you call them at 2 p.m., that's too long because they're sitting there wondering, do they qualify or whatever. So
Mm.
back to my point, Brittany and Christy, they do all of my pre-approvals. Okay.
Okay.
So if they see an application come in, they will send me a note, Major, do you know anything about this? Okay. Or about this person. Hopefully they can figure some things out based on some notes in the file. And they do the pre-approval. Then I call them up and I do a loan consultation. Okay. And I talk through all the numbers and stuff with them, let them know where they are. Now, so that's Tracy marketing. My wife kind of outreach and classes. Then I have two people working pre-approvals for me right now. Okay. Then my processor. Okay. Jessica is my processor. Jessica processes everything from contract to close. Okay. So Jessica is not in my CRM. Jessica is not in any, she is working with the lenders, okay, in their systems to get loans done. If Brittany and Christy did their job correctly, the loan is set up easily and they can figure out, or get this to closing. I do not talk to I rarely talk to people who are in contract to close. Once I lock the loan, I've sold the loan, I am moving on to the next thing. Okay. Jessica is handling everything else and talking to the buyer in order to get everything to the closing table.
How do you follow back up? Like one my best loan officer, you two are very similar. She works a different avenue. She said to me, she says the thing that I got to change in my business is that I do a really good job dating my customer and then I dump them. Me and I go, what? I need to know more. Like, where are we headed with this?
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm fixing it. I want them, I want them to know that the relationship is always there. How do you do that now that you're running a team and there's a lot of people that, exit themselves from the loan, but I know that's not true. Just
Right.
feeling you, I know that's not true.
Right.
You inject yourself sometime and somewhere. When is it?
Usually I ingest, so when I sell the loan, usually we're looking at 2 weeks to go to closing, okay, to
Okay.
CTC. Okay.
Yep.
So I am usually, people feel like they're a part of you if they see your face. So
Yeah.
what we've done is we built videos for people to feel connected to me. And sometimes people ask a question to my assistant or something like that, and they will say, "Hey, Major did a video on that. I want you to watch the video and then call me if you have any questions." So
Ah.
they see my face explaining everything to them. So they psychologically they think, "Oh, I talked to Major." You didn't talk to Major. Major,
Yeah.
you
And
did.
you already know the questions. So you just
Absolutely.
did the
It's the
videos
same
off the
questions
questions.
everyone has.
Yeah.
Why do the initial disclosure say this? Okay. Why is my cash to close showing higher right now than you said it would be? Why all of that, all of these scenarios. So I incorporate video a lot. Even and one part of video is that you got to be comfortable saying what you're saying and watch what you say, because that's a record of you saying something. So we do that. And then Tracy does a great job reaching out to people, following up with them after closing. Okay. And she might call someone up and she would say, hey, and truth be told, for in our CRM, it might be a tickler for her, or it might be a trigger for her in her CRM. And she would call somebody and she'll say, hey, Major was heading into a meeting. He told me to call you and make sure everything was going okay. I think today's your move-in date or
Love
something
that.
like that. But do you have any questions, any concern? Hey, Major. We were in a meeting early this morning. Major asked me to directly reach out to you. He knows your first payment is coming up. Do you have any questions about that? So these things are, and as we're now at 4 years of being in business, and now the conversation is, hey, Major was in a meeting. He told me to reach out to you directly because it looks like you're at your 3 year mark and you're about to PCS. That's for you non-military people. That's when you're about to move from one station to another station. Hey, you're about to PCS, or you're still on track with that, with our timeline we have, and moving to the next place. And a lot of times they'll say, oh, yes, we're going to move in 3 months. Well, when are you listing the house? Are you going to list it? You're going to sell it? Well, I'm thinking about listing it. Okay, great. Let me reach out to your realtor, okay, who you had when you bought your house. And realtors love that because they're now, you're giving them a lead back that they thought was gone, because realtors are terrible at follow up also. So they haven't talked to this person in 3 years. But really, sometimes people really don't expect to talk to the realtor that much. So at the closing, so that's a service that we're giving back to the realtor, so they
Nice.
understand our value that we're demonstrating to them.
Our metrics is 6 to 7 loans before the first hire. Interested to hear your thought process on the first to hire, and then which position are you hiring first?
Well, I like 5 to 6 before the first hire, and 5 to 6 consistently for 3 to 4 months. Okay,
Yes.
you don't hit
Not
five
one
and then
time.
yeah, not 5 to 6 consistently for 3 to 4 months, and then you're ready for the first hire. Um, my opinion is, in my structure, I would hire the LOA first, especially on the broker side. You
Me
can do
too.
contract processing and whatever and not have it hire there. I know multiple people that do 10, 15, 20 loans a month and don't have their own personal processor. They just use all contract processors, which, if that works for you, fantastic. Love it. Um, I would say the assistant, because I want somebody working pre-approvals and structuring files while I'm going out to get more business. Somebody else might, if you're not a person who likes to go get business necessarily, you might pay a BDR, a business development rep, to make those calls and make those calls to different title companies or whatever, while you stay back and work the files. I can't tell you which one works. It's just up about you and your personality. But for me, my first hire was Christy. Christy's been with me for 4 years. When I went from retail to broker, I will tell you, I tried to leave retail and leave my entire team there. They told me quickly that was not going to work. But they
That's awesome.
and they all came with me to the broker side, and I'm very grateful and very glad that they did.
You've done a lot of things, and there's been a lot of takeaways in 28 minutes. Guys, if you just want to take one takeaway and then just hit end and leave us right now, take this. He spends all of his time on the front end of business development and getting leads. He has a way that he attracts leads through education and has figured out these are the things that work for me. And then this is where he puts his effort. He is not trying to be the processor. He's not trying to be the LOA. He's not trying to be the marketing genius. He is generating leads of which the team helps him convert. There, done. Just go do that and you will be wildly successful. Would you agree? Like,
Absolutely.
it's not rocket science, but it is where you spend your time.
Absolutely. I spend my time. I am all the time. I'm thinking about how do I get more influence, especially in this market, in this age where you have, rockets buying this company, and people think that, the big purchases for, that company specifically is, when they make the big acquisitions. But there are multiple smaller acquisitions that they're making in order to grow their ecosystem. And people are like, hey, how do I compete with that? And I'm like, well, I don't compete with that. My buyer is the person who I can reach out and touch, who trusts me, who I can communicate with. The person who finds value in me showing up at the closing. I go to all of my closings that I can. I go to those closings, show up, take pictures. People find value in that you walk with them through that. A call center loan officer is not going to do that. Okay.
Right.
So, you have, and the realtor who finds value in, they don't have to answer all these questions about the closing disclosure at the table because the loan officer is there to answer it, and they can just be there and pop champagne and take pictures and everything. Yeah, let go pop. Yeah, just pour the champagne. I'll explain this to them. So people find value in that, and you won't ever have to worry about competing with the companies who are doing master acquisitions or mass acquisitions if you just focus on your local community, focus on where you have influence, and build your business there.
Yeah, and you have influence though, Major. You have influence and impact in the beginning and in the end.
Mhm.
And and they're both super important, but the end is the most, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, because that's where the relationship starts. Okay, the relationship really starts at the end when they're asking questions about their financials. Hey, how do I make sure my tax exemption is filed? How do I go through that? And listen, you can do a video share screen, okay, and send that to them 2 to 3 days after closing. In fact, you can build it in your CRM where your CRM just sends that video out where they have this video where they can understand that and they're like, oh wow, I didn't understand that. You can build it into your CRM where you send an email on January 15th. Hey, tax season is coming. Hey, don't forget you bought a house this year, so you can write this off on your taxes. Talk to your CPA. But these are things that you should be building in because you've now built another referral partner. You can't just think about your realtor partners as your referral partner. Your referral partners are actually everyone who's had an interaction with you. That is a referral partner.
Yeah. My good my good old buddy John Bauman asked me, I'll have to tell you the Rice story sometime, Major. But anyways, being a senior loan officer in the Navy, did that allow you to develop strong niche in the VA loan program? I'm going to say part, but I can't wait to hear how you completely answer this because I think it's part of it, but it's not all of it.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of colleagues in this business, and they were never in the military, but
Mm.
they understand the VA loan and they serve veterans well. So I am not going to give anyone a cop out and say, hey, I can do this because I was a senior officer in the Navy.
Yeah,
Now, does it help me build some connection with people because I was in the military? I will say yes, and I won't, refute
for
that at
sure.
all. However, the guidelines are the guidelines. Okay, so if you know the guidelines and you know how to practically apply the guidelines, if you have a heart for veterans, and if you volunteer at the VFW and you go by and you talk to people and have relationships in these organizations with veterans and you have a heart to serve,
Hmm.
there's no reason why you cannot actually serve the veteran community and be successful doing VA loans. If you have outlets to different wholesalers like Windsor, you call somebody up and say, hey, AE, I got this situation. What are your thoughts on it? How does Windsor apply the guidelines in this situation? What's going to happen there? And your AEs can talk you through a lot of things. So
Yeah,
my thoughts are, if you have a heart to be good in this area, you certainly can do it.
yeah. How how did I mean you've been in it 4 years, 5 years,
4 years. 4 years.
4 years. Like you've achieved a lot of success in a short period of time, my friend. I've watched people that have been in it 10 years haven't accomplished what you've accomplished. But there's an ingredient there that I want everybody to catch or go get. And that is being obsessed. You learned mortgage really quickly and became obsessed of knowing the guidelines. How did you do that? Was like not everybody does that like that. They kind of learn as they go and they're nonchalant, but you became obsessed, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, even when I had to get licensed, I remember when I had to get licensed, everything to me has been, I do everything with a sense of urgency.
Okay.
Because when I had to get licensed, I told you the story of how I told my wife I was going to retire.
Yeah.
And I was done. She thought I was going through a midlife crisis. We had to go to spiritual counseling and all of this stuff because she's like, something's up with my husband. So
We
while
didn't buy a
she's
Ferrari or anything,
no,
did we?
I didn't. But when she thought this, while she was like, "Hey, we need to go talk to this person," I said, "Okay, great, I'll go talk to him." I was taking my license, so I started studying, got licensed, and or I passed the test in 13 days.
Wow.
It was like go,
And knew
because
nothing about mortgage.
I knew nothing about mortgages. Didn't even know it had a
Just
T.
bought a house or
Yeah,
whatever.
it's just like, but the interesting thing was when she said, I went to work the next day when she said, "Hey, you're having a midlife crisis." I dropped my retirement papers that day. I submitted them that day. Before I was licensed, before I was like, yeah, I'm done. When I'm done, I'm done. So my thing is, sometimes you make the right decision. Sometimes you have to make your decisions right. So, you just make the decision and roll with it.
Yeah.
So I do everything with a sense of urgency. If I have an idea to do something,
Mhm.
then I'm like, okay, let's go execute. And sometimes you're going to miss. Sometimes you're like, oh, that was a waste of time, or I shouldn't have done that.
Mhm.
Sometimes a waste of money, but you just go and execute. I just don't believe in sitting around thinking about things and pontificating forever before you make a thinking decision. So I just like go, and I am obsessed a bit about execution. I just
Mm.
want to do stuff and get it over with.
But the military probably taught you that
Very
execution.
true. Absolutely.
Um, Rick said, "Are your educational classes created by you, or do you use a third-party service to subscribe to?" He just gave you another business that you should be doing, by the way. That'll be another topic for another day. But how are you getting your material?
Two things. Okay, I will tell you my VA material. I'm a part of a organization called Veteran Mortgage
Mm,
Advisors.
awesome group.
I'm a part of VMA, and I like VMA because VMA's intention is to teach you as the originator so that you become the instructor or you become the professional to go teach realtors. So I like that. I like that format. Okay. There's VMA, there's Vetted VA, another awesome organization. Whatever you want
Yep.
to do, I am a part. So I took VMA's slide deck really, and I made it applicable to me, and the way that I want to teach. And as you start doing it, you will change little things about it. And I did twist and make different twists and turns. I will tell you that probably about 50% of the people that are part of VMA are retail. They're not wholesale, like I am. So I had to integrate or put some wholesale slides in there so people would understand what the wholesale model is and why
Mhm.
it's relevant for veterans, and why we
Give
can.
me a reason why wholesale is a benefit for veterans.
Well, number one, I'm not going to go with the easy one and go with the pricing part, but there are some loans that retail shops won't do. Um,
Overlays.
yeah, exactly. So every company has overlays. Okay,
Yep.
every company does. So the fact that on the wholesale side that we have access to multiple different companies, it essentially means you don't have overlays because you can put every different company inside of a circle and you encompass the big circle, and you have access to where you put that loan because of certain different because many different things. And those things, when you're talking to a realtor, and there have been times when I faced a roadblock at a lender. A lender says, "Hey, we can't do that here," or because of X, Y, and Z, we won't approve that loan. And I had one a couple of weeks ago where I had a guy who was short on work history, and we went to the he was in prison for 15 years. He worked in prison, received
Mhm.
pay in prison, and he worked in prison. The VA guidelines say you have to work and receive an income. Doesn't say how much the income has to be. I think he got like $8 a week
Yeah.
working at the. But we found a lender that was willing to take that,
Yeah.
and the fact that on the wholesale side, I'm able to say, make a phone call, make 3 or 4 phone calls, and say, hey, we're going to shift this loan over here, and we're in approval with conditions before anybody even knows that we shifted, the loan. So everybody's going on and everybody's happy about everything. And then I tell somebody later, hey, by the way, we shifted lenders. Okay, we're still going to meet our timeline. Everything's fine. You can't do that on the retail side. The realtor would have to go
You're done.
find another lender, do another application, and all of this stuff. The veteran wants simplicity and they want to be led.
Yeah.
Every veteran is going to ask you, okay, what do I do next?
Yeah.
Because they've spent their whole career being conditioned for leadership.
Hmm.
So if you can lead them well, you're going to have a lot of success with veterans. Like, hey, this is the next step. Don't worry about it. Hey, you're not going to hear from me for 3 or 4 days, but while you're not hearing from me, this is what's going on. So that's why the wholesale side is better. So back to your question, I took their PowerPoint, incorporated the wholesale model or things I wanted to pull out, where I can serve veterans better than maybe another lender, another entity can. And
Yeah.
that became my PowerPoint presentation. I'll tell you this, Chris. I did a VA loan presentation for a brokerage. This had to be in February. I did a VA presentation for them in February, at the beginning of February.
So like so many realtors in the room.
Correct. It was 25, 26 realtors in the room. Okay.
Okay.
A brokerage.
Perfect size.
Exactly. Exactly. You do not want humongous.
You don't want 150, by the way.
No. But it was about 20, 25 realtors in the class. And I did a VA loan presentation. Okay. To date, I've closed 6 loans with that brokerage. Okay. It's 2 months later. I've closed 6 loans with that brokerage. One of them had been VA. All the
And
other.
by the way, closed.
Yes.
Not
Closed.
apps, not leads,
No.
not names.
Closed. Closed 6 deals at that brokerage. And it's because they start asking questions like, wait a minute, is that only applicable on VA loans? Or the overlays thing, is that only applicable on VA loans? No, it's on every single loan. And then you start getting the question like, hey, I got a buyer. They got turned down because of this. Can you help me with this? Can you help a buyer if they got this going on? Sure. And if you can infiltrate a brokerage and your name starts to go around and those realtors start to see that you're closing with their peers, you have totally changed your business. So I'm that same brokerage. I'm sponsoring their banquet this Friday. 400 realtors sponsoring their banquet, or one of the sponsors for their banquet. It's been a huge open door for me, and it started with one class.
That's so cool. By the way, just to go back to Rick and bounce on Major, one of the best classes you can ever put on for realtors is Pitfalls of Lending. So it talks about how to save a deal. It integrates you part of it in the process. It talks about the appraisal piece. It talks about how an appraiser looks at it differently than current comps. Like there's tons of things. I can share you guys the PowerPoint, but Pitfalls of Lending gets a great class, great conversations. And at the end, they always ask you the same questions. So you'll already know. I'm sure Major goes, they already asked me the 10 favorite questions. I already know what the questions are going to be so I can answer the answers. True?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same questions over and over again.
every time. You're like, here, it's coming. It's coming. There it is. There it is.
But you don't just
All right.
answer the question. You got to be kind of, that's an interesting question. Let me think about that. I feel this way. Like, it's like,
I'm so glad you asked that question.
hilarious.
I need to do more of this because I remember my good friend Jeremy Forcier did this, the day in the life of the originator. And of course, they had to ask you this question. Uh, I feel like my daily routine is boring and not that fun, but they asked you, tell us about your daily routine, how you start your day, and then what times or days do you prospect for realtors or recruiting? And do you recruit? Because I don't think you might recruit, but we haven't got into that piece yet. And maybe we have time, maybe we don't. But like, what's a day like with Major?
No day is the same. I would love to tell you that I have some rigid daily routine. I do this, 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 and this, but no day is the same for me. So the reason no day is the same is because I want to be making progress in something. Okay. There are different aspects to my business. Recruiting is a big aspect of my business. I've recruited, I have 50 loan officers on my team.
Wow.
I
I had
think
no idea. 50?
50 loan officers on my team. I think 45 of them came from retail. So it is a part of my business, but I kind of just recruit by conversation. I
Mm,
recruit by influence. I recruit by engaging people's realtors who I close with.
mm.
Ask them like, "Hey, who's your best realtor who's your best loan officer that I don't know yet?" And they'll tell me like, "Hey, this person's amazing. I don't send them too much stuff because they keep getting beat out on pricing." Oh,
Boom.
okay. I need to talk to
So
them.
you steal the deal from them and then you call them and say, join me.
This is not personal. It's like, but because if you take a deal from someone, and if you win a deal from someone, then that realtor knows that you won that deal. And if you're a realtor with any integrity, how do you keep in sending someone or sending your buyers to people who the rates are higher? So I think that's I do that. But back to my daily routine. One thing is non-negotiable. I get up every morning at 5 a.m. Okay.
Love it.
That's non-negotiable. I'm up at 5. Um, I'm getting back into working out about 5:30. About whatever, and then I get the kids off to school. Mornings are my responsibility to make sure they're teenagers, so they act like they can't get out of the bed on time. So I got
You got a
I got
whistle? You got a
typical
whistle?
typical teenagers. It's the same thing. And then I have a pipeline meeting with my processors from 9 to 9:30.
Okay.
Um, that pretty much is the only things that are fixed in stone. Everything else is like when somebody sends me a lead, I send them a link, and they book on my calendar for a meeting. Um, I never say, "Hey, I can give you a call right now." No, I am a business. Okay. If you want my time, you book on my calendar. So I make sure I give you your situation, the attention that it deserves. Because if I call you right now, I'm cooking dinner, I'm doing 800 different things. For me, that just doesn't work. I want to be focused on your situation and prepare for your phone call. So other people book on my calendar. Outside of that, I really don't have a daily routine
Mhm.
outside of my Monday meetings. I meet with my loan officer team on Mondays at 1:30. My thank God it's Monday meeting is
Yes.
1:30 on Mondays. But that's about
The rest of the
all.
time is lead generation.
Absolutely. Yes, that's all I do. So I and by the way, I have it has probably been 3 years since I cold called a realtor. It
No
just
cold
doesn't,
call.
no, it just does not work for me. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, will I engage with a realtor on social media? Will we get to a point where I inbox a realtor on social media and say, "Hey, we should link up. We should talk. I see you're doing this. Maybe I can help you in that area. Let's chat over Zoom." It's very non-intrusive. Okay. Dallas is huge. If I'm contacting, you can drive an hour and a half and still be in Dallas. So I'm very cautious of that. So
Mhm.
I'll jump on a Zoom meeting with someone,
Yeah.
and they'll say, "Yeah, let's jump on a Zoom. Let's talk for 10 minutes and see if we can connect or we fit." So these are I don't ask realtors to coffee. My perspective is, I mean, you can get your own coffee. I just don't. It's just not something that fits my model, honestly.
Yeah. I love it.
Um, I'm too busy. Like I'll have insurance people call me like, "Hey, Major, I want to meet with you for coffee." Do you think I got time to meet? I got my own coffee at home. I am not doing that. That's just me and the way I see things.
Hmm.
If we do some business together, we figure out how we go deeper, then I'll meet face to face with you and figure some things out. But I'm
Yeah.
just too busy to do that.
Biggest goal for 25 for you?
I want to add 25 more loan officers to my team.
Hmm. So
Um,
you'd be a 75 by the end of the year.
75 by the end of the year. Yep. I think we added 3 so far. I am a lot more selective about those loan officers now. I'm a lot more particular about it. Who they are. When you first start building a team, it's like you'll take anything you can get. But now I'm a lot more particular about the heart of people. I like people who are building their business the way I'm building mine, and I'm just plugging them into the Edge Home Finance model, and figuring it out. So that's a big part. of my goals. I do want to reach 200 units this year personally. And I think by the end of this month, I think we'll be at 60 units so far this year.
Wow.
So
You're doing good.
yeah, we're trying to get to 200. But we'll see. If we don't get there, it's gonna be quite a run.
199. It'll be 199.
Yeah, exactly. A couple of years ago, it was like December 28th. Tom Hollis calls me,
Yeah.
and I'm at like 98.5 million and volume.
Okay.
And it's like December 28th. He's like,
Yeah.
"Hey man, you got a refi in there someplace where you can get to 100 million." And I'm like, "Nope, not gonna make it, man."
You know what
And
I always said, Tom, give me one deal and then I'm over.
exactly. That
Help a
was
brother out.
yeah, exactly. That was a frustrating year actually. At 98.5 million, I couldn't get to 100. I was really really upset about it. But if we don't reach our goals, we're going to have a lot of fun. I think my team's goal was get to 60. It was 70 units by June 30th, and I was going to pay for them to go to AIM in Nashville. And I think they've already secured
I
their.
think they're going to
I think
Nashville.
they're going to be okay.
Last question for you. Working on Major, like personal development.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
I read a lot of books, and I listen to my wife a lot.
Good.
She's
That's good.
um, and um, the I read a lot because I need to work on me.
Yeah.
Because um, I've been reading a lot about the challenge of Moses in the book of Exodus. And the book of Exodus about a people coming out of Egypt. But if you read the undertone, under layers there, you're reading about God trying to get things out of Moses.
To become a
Moses
leader.
to help him understand really who his source was, because Moses' first question to God was, "Who am I? I'm supposed to do all of this stuff, but who am I to do all of this stuff? Yeah, I was abandoned by my mother and raised in a house that was not mine. I
Yeah.
have all of these issues in my life, all these issues in my background, and now you're asking me to go lead these people and lead them out of Egypt." And he's consistently asking, "Who am I?" And God does all of this stuff through the hand of Moses. And Moses gets to the end of the book of Exodus, and God says, "You're not going to enter into the promised land." And I believe that was because he couldn't really understand who he was and who God really created him to be.
Mm.
So my issues are, yeah, I got crap in my background, crap in my family, issues that I still have to overcome.
Yeah.
And I have to work on me to understand who I am so
Yeah.
that I can do the things that God actually wants me to do, because I don't want to get to the end and God says, "Yeah, you did all right, but I really had all of this stuff right here that you were supposed to do, and you never quite got there."
You kind of went deep, so now I get to ask another deep question.
All right.
What would you want him to say at your funeral about you?
Um, that I love people and that I invested into people.
Love that. Love that. Guys, if you enjoyed coaching with Chris, if you got any other additional questions, or if Major is something that you want to DM him, that's the easiest way, probably, right, Major, to connect with you
Absolutely. Absolutely.
through DM. He's got a cool story, works for an excellent company, he's got an excellent business plan. If you're new in mortgage, this is who you go under and who you follow to be able to get to the next step. Major, thanks for coming on. By the way, 54 minutes flew by so fast. I just want to keep going.
Thank you very much for the invite. I've loved this, and I really have a great respect for what you built at Windsor. What a great group of people! What a great company! And my
Appreciate
my
that.
my AE is absolutely amazing. I got a new AE. She's absolutely amazing.
She's a
Kaylee.
killer.
Absolutely. So, and she answers all my questions, helping us grow. The AEs are so important, and Windsor, we have a great one over there.
I appreciate you, Major. Have a great day. Happy
All right,
Tuesday.
thanks. Appreciate it.